Our forum is going to deal with 4 distinct areas: parenting, juvenile justice, ex-offenders, school-based / prevention services. This is my 3rd trip to Peoria, and based on the work that I've been doing with Mr. McFarland and Joyce Banks, these were kind of the 4 areas that we wanted to start with. Realizing that there may be some additional areas, realizing, ladies and gentlemen, that there might be some overlap. And in the breakout sessions, the goal is for you to be able to provide solutions, recommendations, and input. Again, our goal is to discuss solutions, recommendations, things that you may have seen that are working in your child's Head Start Center, and we need to double or triple it. Things that are going on here at the Dream Academy. When we met with the director of the Dream Academy yesterday, one of the things that he said is that he could probably double the amount of young people that are in this building receiving services if he could get another 20 or 30 volunteers that would be willing to come in and tutor and mentor a young person, even if it's 1 day a week. Last but not least, all of the information that we gather, we're going to use to kind of develop a blueprint or a master plan, and the executive committee, with the input of community residents, it is our hope, as we talked about yesterday, instead of trying to create a citywide model, that we would start in one community in Peoria, whether it's a community public housing facility, whether it's a neighborhood where there's a school that's having some challenges. If we could start in one neighborhood and begin to marshal resources, redeploy individual agencies, redeploy people, collect some data, because we're going to need to collect some outcome-based data. What's working, what's not working. If we can begin to target a specific community, then we can begin to develop a citywide model. So our hope is that we can start in one neighborhood, okay? Not to necessarily do something very large in terms of citywide, but if we can start in one neighborhood, this model begins to become contagious, and then it spreads citywide.
It was demanded that you be respectful of other students and that you be very respectful of the teachers. I mean, in the system that I grew up, if you were going to speak in class, you always raised your hand. You always had to stand when you answered. And so I think part of it is that it engendered in me as an individual that it's okay to have boundaries and discipline, and that if you have a set of boundaries and you know what's expected of you, you know what you come to step up to. And so I think that the stringent boundaries that were placed on us, and I'm in my 50s, and I know schools have changed since then, but that helped me to develop a sense of that here are the boundaries. If you want to succeed, if you want to play the game, then you have to operate within this set of rules.
Where everybody sat on their front porch, you knew everybody that went by. If somebody went by you didn't know, everybody was kind of, who's that? You know, let's maybe keep an eye on this person, see where he's going. But now we're a backyard. You know, people come in, they lock the front door, they close the curtains, and they go out back. And it's antisocial. It's a lot of things, but it's been brought around for a lot of reasons. But what we need to do is get back to being the front porch, the front porch city. And continue that discussion and knowing your neighbors and that kind of thing.
Justice, if you have an interest in writing, if you have an interest in, if you have a talent or an interest, that leads you down a certain path as well.
I think we should put failures though, because sometimes it will push you to do different things if you are in fear of failure. So failure should be on. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, I put a failure right there.
She's on that. Yeah.
And that kind of goes up here too, failures, because if you learn from these life experiences, sometimes there's successes and sometimes they're failures.
And they're not. Right. Yeah.
The ATC, they have 100% employment job rate. They also do work with us. They come to a workforce network and utilize all of our facilities to ensure that they find the job that they're looking for. But they do have 100% employment rate.
There's another thing to think about that 1,000 a month coming through DOC. Of that 1,000, many of them are never getting out, and they have a step-by-step program where you have to kind of prove yourself, and some of them aren't proving themselves and they're going back. So that number is a little inflated if we're counting the work release center.
Right. But we also have about, it's a 76% recidivism rate of those 1,000 individuals that are coming back. So that's huge. 76% of the 1,000 individuals are going back, either back to jail, new conviction, or did something to mess things up.
Okay, I want to talk about solutions again, since that's our purpose. When I was working at Illinois River Correctional Center, one of the programs we had was called CWT, Cooperative Work Training, and that was a program where the inmates came to the classroom twice a week, and we had case studies, and they also had to have a job, and I monitored their job. And then in addition to the prep, they still have CWT?
They do, but once again, a lot of people ain't eligible for it.
Okay. But anyway, the other thing was, you know, Brenda talked about employers. I would talk to employers and ask them, you know, how they felt, and I wouldn't tell people the name of the employees, but I would give them the kind of thing that employers were looking for. So one of the things we need to do is I know the state's in a deep financial hole right now. We need to get them to fund those vocational positions, because when I was at Illinois River, we had about 8 different vocational areas that guys could train in. And the guys who went through the vocational training programs had the lowest recidivism rate.
Exactly.
And so now they've gone from like 8 training programs down to 2. But before they could get training in data processing, construction, occupation, electronics, culinary arts, I can't think of all the others, but the office manager told me they're down to 2 now. So that's one thing that's contributing to it. We need to get that back into the system.
And there is something that is being done to try and get things back into the system that's called the Second Chance Act Grant initiative that was passed, I think, in 2004. And the majority of the funding is going to the DOC to put in the different types of programs that you're talking about. I know we are also applying for that Second Chance Act grant so that we here in Peoria can work with the ex-offenders, have them be participants, work on a stipend training employment program where they'll be placed in either a community organization or a faith-based organization to gain those skills. And then from there, they'll be working with I think they're called employment specialists now, as well as recovery coaches to make sure that we're addressing all the needs of the ex-offender. So the Second Chance Act grant is out there, but I don't know how much the state or the different departments of corrections are really going after it.
I think it's great to be able to say, I think we should go to employers and all that, but I think it's time we start thinking outside of the box. We have a gentleman here who would like to have a job. We've got 2 gentlemen here that have already talked about what other cities do as far as creating jobs for ex-felons, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4 times, that want to work. And it's just an example of what's going on right now. There's talk about an ordinance that people would like to have passed in Peoria with snow removal of the sidewalks. At the same time, you're hearing the medical people say people over 50 shouldn't be doing it. People over 60 definitely shouldn't be doing it. And people over 70, they ought to think twice before even picking up the shovel. What would be wrong with having a group of men employed and have somebody like him be in charge of it? He's a felon, so what? You know, and employ felons and contract with maybe homeowners so that they know their walks are going to be shoveled. At the same time, it could lead to something else. Yeah. But have it, you know, let's quit saying with unemployment so high right now that we're going to try and talk employers into hiring ex-felons when there are other people out there that they might want to take a chance on. Let's give these guys a chance to start their own business, and there's got to be money out there somewhere for that. There's money for everything else.
Right.